Hello, and thank you for having me here today. My name is Amanda Malkasian, and I'm here to speak with you all on incarceration in the United States. Incarceration in the United States has hit an all-time high. Currently, over 2.2 million people are incarcerated in the United States, facilitating almost 1/4 of the world's prisoner population. With the current overpopulation of our correctional facilities, the refinement of those inmates' parole and the possibility of early release at the forefront of our government's list of things to do, we can see a rise in the debate over our institutional rights. What once was our plight, tough on crime in 1980, has dissolved in a debate diffusing crime for time served houses concern for all. In 2009, our correctional institutions housed approximately 743 adult prisoners per 1,000 of our nation's population. In 2011, our prisoner population rose to 2.2 million adults per 1,000. Just shy of 1% of our nation's population is serving time, with an additional 4.8 million adults on probation or parole. In total, almost 7 million adults are under correctional restitution. The Justice Department unveiled a revamped clemency process directed primarily at low-level felons imprisoned for at least 10 years who have clean records while in custody. The effort is in part of a broader administration push to scale back harsh penalties in some drug-related prosecutions and to address sentencing disparities arising from the 1980s crack cocaine epidemic that yielded a disproportionately tough punishment for black drug offenders. The Federal Bureau of Prisons has released a census of all inmates currently registered in the federal corrections facilities and state prisons. The most common misconception, the overstimulated idea our prisons are filled with primarily young black males due to the rise of drug-related crackdown, Human Rights Watch tough on crime in the 1980s, can be illustrated clearly as delusional at best. It's seen when assessing race, gender, and age. Asians currently count 3,361, 1.6% of the current inmate population. Second, Native Americans at 1.9% of the inmate population are at 4,069. Now, black, on the other hand, is at 80,364 current count, approximately 37.1% of the current inmate population. White, 128,609 current count. That's 59.4% of the current inmate population. Now, it's no topic for discussion that the gender equality is far from that. Males are 93.4% of inmates, females 6.6% of inmates. Age is less than desirable. Our young adults at 18 years of age, 2,959 inmates, barely legal to vote. 22 years of age, 13,000 inmates. 26 years of age, 29,000 inmates. 31 years of age, 41,000. 36 years of age, almost 39,000. 41 years of age, 32,000. 46 years of age, 23,000. 51 years of age, nearing retirement, 16,000 inmates. 56 years of age and above, those who are more than likely going to live out their sentence and the rest of their days inside the confinement of our correctional facilities, 19,908 inmates. Class inequalities in incarceration reflected in the very low educational level of those in prison and jail. The legitimate labor market opportunities for men with no more than a high school education have deteriorated as the prison population has grown, and prisoners themselves are drawn overwhelmingly from the least educated. State prisoners average just a 10th grade education level, and about 70% have no high school diploma. Most of the growth in incarceration rates is concentrated at the very bottom among young men with very low levels of education. In 1980, around 10% of young African American men who dropped out of high school were in prison or in jail. By 2008, this incarceration rate had climbed to 37%, an astonishing level of institutionalization given that the average incarceration rate in the general population was 0.76 of 1%. Even among young white dropouts, the incarceration rate had grown remarkably, with around 1 in 8 behind bars in 2008. The significant growth of incarceration rates among the least educated reflects increasing class inequality in incarceration through the period of the prison boom. White privileges, or the benefit of being white in the same social, political, or economic circumstances, often are illustrated throughout cultural norms and many times used to dissect the upswing of minorities entering into our correctional institution. Given the research and constant ongoing census within these facilities, statistics show a dominant lead of those incarcerated. Above the mark of half these populations, white males attribute almost 60% of the inmate population, and of that 60%, at least 1 out of every 8 is a high school dropout. Incarceration rates of black males are near second, with equally poor educational means. White privileges can no more be considered a definite gap of reasoning in ever-growing minority populations in these overcrowded correctional facilities. It's stated clearly by the census. Deputy Attorney General James Cole deems, while laying out new criteria that will be used in evaluating clemency petitions for possible recommendations for the president's approval, states, these older, stringent punishments that are out of line with sentences imposed under today's laws erode people's confidence in our criminal justice system. These defendants were properly held accountable for their criminal conduct. However, some of them, simply because of the operation of sentencing laws on the books at the time, received substantial sentences that are disproportionate to what they would receive today. As seen in our liberal state of California, correctional facilities are being issued government demands to meet issued limitations to the overcrowding dilemma within their reform system. Listed below are recent censuses from PPIC indicated the current ongoing reforms seen in California. A recent population reductions are not sufficient to meet federal requirements. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that overcrowding causes the unconstitutionally poor health care delivery in California state prisons and ordered the reduction of the prisoner population to 137.5% of the design capacity, or about 110,000 inmates in June 2007, 1 year ago. However, even with the recent population decrease, state penal institutions are operating at 150% of their design capacity and will need to clear out nearly 10,000 more prisoners to comply with the court mandate. If the state releases more prisoners, tough decisions lie ahead. Assessing prisoners' risks or reoffending is critical if the current prison population is reduced. Inmates amounting to 40% are considered to be at low risk for reoffending based on their age, gender, and prior criminal history. But a large portion of low-risk offenders have committed very serious crimes such as homicide or kidnapping. Conversely, a quarter of the prison population is rated high risk for recommitting a drug, property, or violent crime, and among those serving for non-serious and non-violent offenses, 50% are rated high risk to reoffend. Becker's labeling theory in 1966, the idea that crime and all other forms of rule breaking result not so much from what people do as for how others respond to those actions. At what time and place did the demise occur? Who was involved? And the perception, definition, and response of those who aim to judge such an act is best put to test while awaiting Obama's ruling on the overcrowding crackdown. If not for our own Human Rights Watch, the upswing of a revolution on and against crime of any magnitude, we would not have incarcerated so many violent offenders, and violent or non-violent. And if not for those actions, not reactions towards violence, who knows what kind of revolution may have been had. Maybe one which no longer have our nation placed first in most convicted inmates serving time, but a revolution where the United States is known to rank near the infamous drug trafficking country of Cuba. Yet as we stand here today, time served may be all which stands in the way from securing our seat properly above Cuba. Thank you. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to doing this again.